Okay, so I did a little more chopping yesterday. I chopped some more out of here. I chopped the little angle pieces that were here on the frame out. I thought they were going to help me, but in the end they were hindering. So fits in there nice and flush now. Everything sits nice. I spent a good part of the day yesterday just contemplating what I need to do from this point on out. I have a lot of things to think about getting on this thing. I've got a battery box and all the associated stuff that goes with ignition and everything. I think before I go any further, I really want to get that motor mounted in there. But I think before I go any further, I'm going to take this rear end apart and make sure that something isn't bent here. If I've got to straighten anything, I want to do it before I get the motor mounted. I can see just a little bit of a, it's not quite true right there, but I also see that typical of these Chinese bikes, this isn't mounted in the center, and I'm not sure why. I also have, if you look at this bottom of this frame, this bar over here is straight and this bar has a bend in it. So whether they did that at the factory on the fly to make up for something that was crooked, I don't know if maybe these things have a tendency to pull to one side or the other, so they mount this off to the side. I don't know, but the first thing I'm going to do is take the rear end apart. I'm going to move this up and out of the way, and I'm going to put a string right down the middle of this thing so I can get some measurements and make sure that everything's true. Because if I do need to straighten something, again, I want to do it before I get the motor mounted. So that's going to be next. I'm going to take the wheels off this thing. I want to get all the rubber out of the way before I start welding. These have rubber in them. I'm going to be welding up in here. I don't want to get that rubber hot, so I'm going to be taking that all off. So I'm got a day of just playing around with it. Again, I just want to make sure that everything's right before I start welding. I think the old carpenter's adage, measure twice, cut once, definitely applies here in the chop shop. I think I will measure 8 times and cut once. Want to get it right. So, have a good day. I will. Okay, so I loosened up all the chain tensioning system, and with both sides sitting in the same spot, everything looks nice and square there. So I don't have any concerns with the anything being bent back here. My only concern back here is going to be worrying about where the sprocket is in relationship to my motor. I'm not going to worry about that right now. You can see the string. It goes through and it comes off the center of the steering tree or column or whatever you want to call it, and shoots right down the center. I marked the center of the hub. I marked the center of the back of the swing arm, and I marked the center of the front of the swing arm, and that all lines up nice and true. Looks really, everything's nice and good on the bottom, but you can see up on the top, there's 2 marks on the tailpiece there. There's one that lines up with the string and the stick that is not in the center. The mark to the left on that stick, above the stick on the frame there, is the center of the frame. So I think I'm going to make an incision over here, and I'm going to end up putting a piece of plate back in here and welding this all back together good. I really want to take the twist out of that. I'm pretty OCD about stuff like this, and I know that in the end, if I don't do it, and if I'm riding this thing down the trails and it's always pulling to the left or pulling to the right or whatever, it's going to bother me. So, especially knowing that I could have done something about it with only a day or two's worth of work. The shock absorber mount is going to get moved to. That's going to go in the center. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they did it. I think they did it on the fly to make up for the frame being a little wacky. So I'm going to do what I got to do to straighten out the frame. Yeah, it won't be too big of a deal. I'm doing so much fabrication in there anyways. It's just one more little thing. So that's where I stand right now. I'm going to probably get the motor mounted in there next again and see how the sprockets line up and everything now that I know what's going to happen. And then worry about truing that frame, or I might do that in the opposite order. I'm not really sure. Gots to think about it. Here's another angle on it. You can see the string is tied to right in the center of the front and runs through to the back to my stake. And if I eyeball right through with all my marks and everything like that, that string runs right parallel between those two bottom frame members. So I'm not worried about the bend in the one and the other one being straight. Everything's nice and straight except for this. You can even see this one being a little, this top piece is just a little wacky, and it's going to get straightened. You can really see it. I don't know if the camera catches it. Yeah, I mean, I think the camera's even catching it. You can really see that back piece being twisty. It's about 3 degrees out of whack. So just one more view of it for anybody concerned. And after walking around studying it for a minute or two here, I see what I'm going to do. I see what happened. I think, you know, this chunk right here is kicked out to the side. It was probably too long or whatever. You know, this one's right in the center where it wanted to be. And then when this bushing used to be nice and tight, they welded that bracket right where it wanted to be, and because of the twist, that's so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this little stabilizer bracket out. I'm going to chop this right here, take enough of that to just push this whole thing down a little bit, and that won't interfere with the front at all. That'll kink this down a little tiny bit, and that'll true it back to where it really wants to be. And I don't have to deal with that right at the moment. I can move on to getting the motor back in this thing and looking at the sprockets. So that's what I'm headed for next. Okay, so I wanted to get the sprocket off, and of course everything is in great shape on this thing except for some of these bolts back here. This is stripped, the tightener thingy is stripped. I had to use my pipe wrenches to get these off, which wasn't a big deal. I got a stripped head on this one, so I've got to take the sprocket right out, and the whole thing is splined, comes off. So I got to do all that to figure out how I'm going to get my sprocket on here, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to grind that bolt and then remove what's left of it, because I just can't get on it at all with vice grips or anything. There's a few stripped heads on a few of these nuts. A lot of I think I'm going to replace some of these bolts back here, but we'll see. This definitely needs to be fixed. So it's going to be an ongoing thing for a little while here, but that's where I am.